Hi guys, welcome to my streaming. I just wanna make a clarification here that a lot of the time Bitdefender is pretty much giving out like security advice and everything. So yeah, I'm predicting that I need to do some cybersecurity here. So, what is Bitdefender GravityZone Business Security? Well, Bitdefender is known in the industry for mostly 30 years. And now Bitdefender also I gotta say this is the one and only time that I will be posting Bitdefender. And what is Bitdefender GravityZone Business Security? Well, it's a top tier ransomware and advanced threat protection. So called top tier, business tier, security tier, you call it. But here's the thing about Bitdefender is they have a very, very large data. And I'm not able to show quite a lot of information unless it's like paying out. But I can tell you in my experience with Bitdefender, I have never had an issue with Bitdefender at all. And before I do anything, I want to emphasize that this is only a part of Bitdefender. In a few minutes, I'm going to show you what is called Bitdefender Business Security. This is the official site of Bitdefender GravityZone of security, and this is one of those criteria for nearly 30 years of innovation and work around. This is the top rank protection and detection, enterprise grade protection made easier. All these are like readable on their website. I'm not going to bother some of these, and here is a little kickback on what the so-called enhancement here is. Ransomware prevention and, well, it's technically ransomware protection or prevention, network attack defense, and risk management, web and content control filtering. And it's also IDC certified. And here is a kickback on what they want to show.
GravityZone Business Security meets the needs of any company in a single, easy-to-use platform across all your endpoints and servers without overwhelming your staff or breaking the bank. Its intelligent prevention layers keep phishing and zero-day attacks from impacting your business through automatic machine learning, network and process monitoring. It provides an innovative ransomware mitigation feature that automatically recovers your local and network files using tamper-proof backups.
So through this, you can see Bitdefender Enterprise. The difference about Bitdefender Consumer and Bitdefender Other Productive. Bitdefender Enterprise is mainly for Bitdefender GravityZone and Polari user. And those that drive Polari, they should know this by now. But here is a kickback on what the let's see, which one should I click on? 31 seconds. Should I go with Polari?
At Ferrari, we operate as one company, which means that cybersecurity matters apply company-wide.
We are viewing in Ferrari a pilot, a car, but in fact behind that is a full team of people working for that success.
You could say that the world of racing is very similar of our world, because even a tiny differences of 1,000 of second can be a deciding factor.
It's similar in cyber. In Bitdefender, we are a team. Not only a team, but we are teaming with our partners, with our customers to find the threats.
When it comes to cyber, it's super important to act fast and deal with any threats that come on your way, so that you can contain the situation and prevent any consequences for our company.
IT security is really key for us because protecting our information allows us to maintain our business that has been distinctive for more than 75 years.
Successfully staying ahead of threats required deep cybersecurity expertise. With about half of our entire staff dedicated to R&D, we're working around the clock to identify and combat new threats.
Having a threat intelligence we can trust is essential.
I believe trust is not given, you earn the trust. It's not 1 second, it's going through tough events where you are close to your partners, you are supporting the partner, that's earning trust.
When you can rely on accurate and reliable information, it's so much easier to cut through all the underlying noise and concentrate on the things that really matter.
Through TI, organizations gain insights and attack context around attack vectors, TTPs, indicators of compromise, threat actor attribution, vulnerability and exploit correlation, and triage helpers. Essentially, all of the modern needs for a security operations center, all based on real-life attack data.
Current trends are certainly concerning because we see that the number of successful attacks is dramatically increased. What we also can underline is that if in the past we dealt with individuals, now we deal with proper criminal organization. Some of the unique concern of Ferrari is not a matter of if, but when. And this is true not only for Ferrari, but also for the other big companies with strong brands and high visibility on the markets. Saying that, we can consider our mission, so being ready to handle an adverse event.
Threat intelligence is the embodiment of all cybersecurity outcomes provided by Bitdefender that help organizations gain visibility into the global threat landscape.
Bitdefender Threat Intelligence will not only help us with the difficult challenge of detecting and preventing contact with hidden threats in the wild and therefore responding faster to attacks. It will also increase our awareness in cybersecurity of tactics used by the threat actors. Our main aim is to make sure that all of our security perimeter is fully integrated with Bitdefender Threat Intelligence, sharing the indicators provider. Thanks to the comprehensive intelligence we receive, we can broaden our understanding of attempted attack by gaining more context about the attacker motivation, for example.
We have started collaborating with Bitdefender, and we are very excited because from what we see, there are all the conditions for a strong and collaborative relationship, and we will rely on Bitdefender experience, professionalism, and reliable tools to bolster Ferrari cybersecurity strategy.
Ferrari and Bitdefender. In the Ferrari case, is about winning races, using Scuderia Ferrari as a kind of research laboratory for the full Ferrari group. In our case, being very consistent in striving for excellence, in fact, is building the trust the customers have in Bitdefender.
What we are really looking for is a partner that is committed to innovation, because in this field in particular, you have to be at the forefront of cybersecurity to be able to manage the challenges.
Having a strong relationship and carefully choosing your partner you can trust, especially when it comes to keeping information confidential, extremely important.
And for us, working in close collaboration with a partner like Bitdefender is really making us stronger in managing the complexity and the risks and the challenges of cybersecurity for our business.
That is one segment of the Ferrari team. And then there is another one called Bitdefender. There is a lot of Bitdefender video. They also have some frontline of entrepreneur, how you can protect yourself. And here is the strong arm guy himself making a video.
I like defending and protecting.
We like to fight fire with fire.
Together with Bitdefender, we're looking to stay ahead of threats.
Spurs, just like Bitdefender, are a global brand.
Knowing someone has our back with cybersecurity means a lot.
We're really looking for one solution that could manage it end to end for us and ensure that we're protected, and we felt Bitdefender was the best partner for us.
That was quick. And couple of other video that I could mandatory showcase. Some of this is not usable.
EDR, XDR, or MDR. Find out what solution works best for your organization. In today's digitized landscape, where innovation fuels progress, another force evolves, one that aims to infiltrate, disrupt, and dismantle. Cyber threats are no longer just a possibility. They are an inevitability. Their sophistication and frequency continue to rise, making detection and response a critical element in your cybersecurity strategy. Detection is our early warning system, and response is our shield. Detecting threats swiftly and responding effectively is what stands between resilience and vulnerability. Fortunately, we have the tools to build resilience, and today, we are going to examine how EDR, XDR, and MDR can fortify your organization against the growing tide of cyber threats. Let's start with Bitdefender GravityZone Endpoint Detection and Response, EDR. Our EDR solution is vigilant, continuously monitoring your endpoints to detect suspicious activities, potential malware, or abnormal behaviors that might indicate there is an active threat. Beyond the attack, malicious processes and probable root causes are highlighted to help security teams deploy remediation tools to fortify defenses and secure high-risk assets against future attacks. This helps you maintain high cyber hygiene standards. But imagine taking the context, visibility, and responsiveness of EDR and applying it to cloud environments, email, network traffic, productivity apps, and more. Well, get ready for GravityZone XDR. We provide you with detailed context into the event, including the specific actions that make it suspicious, the affected entities, and most importantly, our recommended responses for stopping the attack immediately. It doesn't matter if it was a suspicious user created in your Office 365 account or users removing encryption from your AWS S3 buckets. XDR is watching your entire environment and helps you respond swiftly. When it is time to investigate and respond, GravityZone XDR solution has already identified impacted endpoints, techniques used, root causes, entry points, and more as part of human-readable visualization that connects every step in the attack path to the responses you can take to stop it. As you're probably aware, few threat actors are in it for the paid holidays and steady hours. In fact, holidays and weekends are the best time for them to attack an organization. That's why Managed Detection and Response, MDR, emerged. It provides the most cost-effective way to scale up to 24/7 security monitoring and response. But it's not just getting someone to monitor your alerts and call you on a Sunday. You'll have access to dedicated cybersecurity professionals with deep knowledge and experience of the threat landscape, your environment, the technology, and the associated telemetry. They'll investigate every alert. They'll dig into any activity that seems suspicious. When they find a true positive, they'll either take care of it via pre-approved actions or notify you with detailed information on the threat and the best action for remediating it quickly. Then we undertake intensive monitoring of your environment to validate that all backdoors have been slammed shut and threat actors have no persistence mechanisms in place. But MDR is also about stopping attacks before they happen, as it is first and foremost built on top of our GravityZone Business Security Enterprise platform, with integrated endpoint detection and response, EDR, included as part of the package. For the more advanced attacks, using multiple threat intelligence feeds and field-based experience, MDR experts build detailed knowledge of emerging threats and the techniques used to attack organizations, which they then leverage to deliver the outstanding security that Bitdefender MDR is recognized for. Armed with this knowledge, security analysts can identify vulnerabilities in your environment, hunt for threats, and help prepare you for a possible attack. Wrapping up, detection and response are the pillars that uphold a robust security infrastructure, ensuring your organization's resilience against evolving cyber threats. Empower your organization, strengthen your defenses, embrace a proactive stance in the face of an ever-evolving digital landscape.
That is definitely one of the showcase that Bitdefender had. And I was watching about how Bitdefender responds to the
Interesting, fascinating story.
I'm gonna skip forward a little bit here and here and here.
They're talking about cybercrime from the front line today.
Cool. And I'm Josh Armstrong, the Senior Manager of Global SOC. I've been here a little bit over 6 years as well. Kind of came in a few months after Tyler started here. And I oversee our security analyst and as well as another team called Content Management Team. So our analysts are obviously working our detection cases and responding to our customers. And we have our content management team who's really focused on kind of the data that we're getting and making sure it's usable to our customers. My background, I was a Windows administrator for quite a while before I got into cyber. And then before that, did desktop support. So I've kind of worked my way up to the chain over the last 20 years. So
There's a lot of mysticism about what analysts do and their work. And I'd like to uncover some of the secrets of the day-to-day operations in a SOC with these gentlemen who know all about it, who have great stories. And to be honest, even though, you know, we know each other, we talk about what's going on, we've been in this for a long time, even I don't know a lot of the super cool and interesting stories. So I'm actually going to sit here with you guys and with all of you to learn and to hear interesting, fascinating stories and positive outcomes from actually being on the front line. Because, you know, it's heroes that don't wear capes, right?
100%. And it's a very interesting thing because, you know, we work in a technology company and everyone talks about the technology, but it's the humans, it's the people, the bodies sitting behind the scenes that are the ones not only dealing with incidents and the attacks that we see in, but developing ways to mitigate those effects. And it's really cool to have, to work along those people that have that ability, that have the skills, that knowledge to be able to fight this and to fight cybercrime in a way that, like everyone kind of focuses on the technology, but really it's the people. It's the people, the human-led operations that make it effective and make technology useful to the people that we're protecting. And, for a person who's been around that community for a long time, I've been 20 years working in the intelligence community and, combating different criminal organizations around the globe. And what I notice is, it's all about money. That's really what they care about. They want to affect customers and, they don't really have the morality around it. And to see civilian companies out there, especially in the cybersecurity world, fighting and going, using humans and technology to fight that and combat that is a really cool thing, in my opinion. So, yeah, really excited to talk about this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think, of the glorified pictures of a SOC or an operation where there's fancy screens and all these analysts and experts right behind big computers looking at big numbers on a screen. But how is it actually? Give me a sense. Of course, whatever we can share, but what's going on down there? How does a day in the life of an analyst look like? What's the collaboration look like? And maybe have an example of an actual situation where things stop being the day-to-day operation and there's an incident that requires more attention. What's going on? So
I think first it starts with the number one, finding the right people, people that not only take this seriously, but have passion to step into a situation that might make them uncomfortable, that, where they have to make decision points to protect our customers, and then have the analytical mindset to be able to walk through the steps and understand, this is how I need to understand what happened in this investigation. This is what the attacker did. This is how they laterally moved, and then go, all right, where's my next step? How do I continue to analyze this to make sure that I'm taking the proper steps to protect our customers? And so, finding that person that has that right analytical mindset is something that Josh and I take very seriously. And then we can work on, the technical skills, growing that understanding of the technology and the analytical process to make them better to understand. But, finding the right people to come in and that have that passion, that drive to be able to protect the customers, because they might get in front of, the customer. They might get in front of, have to deal with complex attacks, and it's something that we've never seen before out there in the real world. And so people that, can walk through that, understand it, pivot in the right places, are desperate, and we need a lot of those in the SOC, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, understanding, how these individuals think outside the box, especially like when we're interviewing people. Sometimes we ask different questions that may not even have to do with cybersecurity, just understand how they analytically think in order to, handle some of these detections and some of these alerts. Because as we all know, attackers are constantly evolving, right? And so it's not always going to be the same every time. And so you want to make sure that these guys, think outside the box, so to speak, and can kind of look at different situations. But, a day in the life of an analyst, they're coming in, we're looking at detections, and it could be anything. You got to think about all the industry verticals. For instance, you have schools out there. There's a lot of kids and teachers and people on these computers that are looking at email or trying to download games or do all these things, right? And we'll get detections on anything. And so we really have to be able to understand, is it legitimate or is it an attacker? Understanding the backside of that and, being able to communicate with the customer is so important. And like I said, thinking outside the box. As attackers do new things, you have to adjust and evolve to those things. And, our big goal is always to get in front of the attacker and stop them without them, understanding them off, right? And so there's a lot of times where you're thinking about how to do that without tipping them off, as there's new attacks every day. So
how much of that is communication between you guys and the customer, or coordination and stuff?
Yeah, so I mean, it starts with that knowledge base, that understanding the baseline of our customer's environment. So every detection that our analysts get, they have to go and understand and study kind of the customer. Have we seen this type of attack before? Does this look like normal admin activity, or is it pretty obvious that this was like a phishing or unauthorized software in the environment that is now launching suspicious commands and suspicious activity. And so they take that understanding and they go, all right, knowing this information, should I take an action? Should I respond? And, and some of those actions are pretty serious. Like we could stop and shut down an environment from being able to communicate out. They might, it might pose a big business risk, but, we might be stopping that company from making money. So, we have to take that into account on the actions that we take and make sure that they're deliberate and they're the right action that we need to take. And then, transparency, communicating that information to our customers, because, they want to see the value in what we're doing. They want to see the expertise. And, we encourage and support our analysts to make those decisions, to communicate it properly to the customers, and then to interact with them, let them know why we're doing it, how we're doing it, ask them questions, get as much information so we truly understand the threats that we're seeing day in, day out. Right. And so it's very important that we're communicating with the customer, and, not just to show them the work and the value that we're doing, but to show them the expertise that's sitting there. They want to know that they have a great team that's on their side, that they have the partnership in place to be able to protect their environments. And so, we encourage, our leads and Josh and I to get on customer calls, to interact with them, to show them like, we're here to help you. And the more that we interact, the better the outcome is.
Yeah, generally there's a learning phase when we onboard a customer. So we typically say around 30 days or so to really start to understand an environment. That's one thing where we collect data. We're communicating with customers, building their knowledge base, putting exclusions in for things that we know that are legitimate activity. And so there is that learning phase. The more customers can communicate with us, the better. We like that, obviously. We think as, we're one team here in this together. And so there's a lot of communication that goes between us and our customers because we're not on site for the customer, right? We're there, right. We're protecting them. We don't always know that they have a custom script doing, different things. And so the communication is extremely important for us.
Because I find it fascinating that, every customer, of course, verticals might be similar in general, but then every customer has their own custom setup and have the proper situation, their custom situation. You have to learn each particular environment to be able to, best analyze what's going on in there. Is that a repeatable process, or is it just a lot of hard work?
It's great. Like, that's a great question, because is it repeatable? Yes, but is it custom, and does it have intricacies with every new customer or new environment that we're looking at? Yes, 100%. Every environment's different. There's no two the same. Just like a fingerprint, it seems like everyone does something a little bit different. And so yes, our analysts, that's the biggest thing about why human-led operations are so important and why the analyst is so important, is because a lot of them have backgrounds who have been and developed these environments in these different customer situations. And so they have that background, that understanding, have been the IT, been in those admin departments, have set up, these web services and web applications and server environments for these customers. And so, they go, this is normal. This is how I would do it. Now, why is the customer doing something different? Why did they set it up differently? And then how would an attacker get in? And that's that knowledge that we want to encourage, and why it's so important that we find the right talent to be able to do that, to protect our customers.
All right. And we were talking earlier, I think, how many people might compare you guys to law enforcement, like, the cops fighting the bad guys, but and maybe a better comparison might be even to firemen, where there's a big fire hose and you're just trying to douse a big big fire, or even scenarios where it looks like you guys might be similar to aviation, where there's checklists and procedures and very strict rules, and all those things need to be followed in a certain order. So I mean, there's no pin that I want to put in any placard about it, but describe it yourselves so we don't have any more confusions here. I just want to get a sense of it.
In my opinion, I think this is the first time that we've seen civilian companies lead the way against criminal organizations. The cybersecurity companies out there right now not only collect data about these cyber criminal groups, but they're building capabilities to combat them. And normally you see that in the government, or the military. That's where you see the action arms, and you see police that will show up to the door and arrest a bad guy. You never really see civilian companies leading that in the front line here. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've noticed with cybersecurity companies is that not only do they have capabilities that are unmatched and that are truly forward-leaning to protect the customers that purchase them, but they have the analysis, the people behind the scenes that have passion, that are looking to stop and protect it. And knowing that they don't get the law enforcement arm to back them up, they have to take the right step. They have to protect. And firemen is probably the perfect example of that. They show up, to douse a fire, to stop a threat, to mitigate the effects of an ongoing situation. And I think that's the same thing that analysts deal with day and day, is that they're coming in, starting their day, getting into detection, knowing that, one of these times I'm gonna have to make a decision on, stopping an attack from going through. And it might be as simple as resetting a credential, or blocking an IP, or stopping a process that's running. Or it could be as crazy as isolating a host, stopping an environment from communicating out. And they know that, that decision might stop a ransomware attack, or might stop something going on that might further compromise them in data theft, and that company might lose intellectual property. So, like I said, it's funny that we're in a place, in a time where we're seeing analysts, this human-led analysts, and the technology piece being led from this, like a civilian group, civilian organization. Traditionally, I think you'd see, against cyber criminal groups, law enforcement arms being combating that. And
yeah, and of course, a lot of people will see the effects of a long, drawn investigation where doors are being busted, but that's. So that's what I'm kind of trying to dispel here. But because I'm pretty sure that's, the general public or somebody who's interested but hasn't really been inside an operation, doesn't really know what's going on. And I'm like, well, can we share something that's more interesting from inside? And I know we can. So to that effect, Josh, is there ever a quiet day at the office?
Yeah, there are. There can be. We like quiet days. Generally, though, we're fairly busy. But there are quiet days out there, but we have to always be ready. Even quiet detection, so to speak, can turn into something major, right? If you don't handle it quickly. And for us, a big thing is our process and procedures, constantly trying to improve those and keep up. As a firefighter might learn, it might be better to take this route to get there right next time versus taking this other route where there was traffic so I could get there quicker. Same kind of thing in the SOC, as we learn how to get in front of attackers and stop things and realize that, hey, this process may not have been the best, let's improve it. That's one of our things we're constantly doing, is improving our process and procedures. So on quiet days, we're capable of maybe investing a little bit more time into some of those items as well. So quiet can all depend, right? It might be quieter on the front line with detection pieces and alerts, but we're very busy doing a lot of other things. And so, it's super important to continue to stay on top of it, whether it's quiet or not.
So what happens when stuff gets down? When there's a red alarm? Is there a big red button you guys press and start scrambling, or what's going on?
I think that's what happens. There's a big red phone in the SOC that gets
right. It should be right.
Get directly to the president, and we're able to now. That's where that process and procedure come into place. So our investigations. So like, let's say we see a phishing attack, or we see an interactive attacker in the environment who's launching PowerShell commands, who's trying to elevate their privileges and try to pivot and move laterally in the environment. Analysts will then go, this is obviously not normal for this environment, based off of everything we've already talked about, that understanding the baselining of a customer environment. We go, yep, this isn't normal. This is definitely outside of the normal working hours of this user. So let's take action. And so we're going to declare an incident, and there's no big red, no phone, no big red button, but there is buttons with our technology to go and get the right people in contact, to establish the communication line to the customer, so they know that they're in an incident, so they see that this is a serious threat. We might be asking them questions, might be actually gathering more logs and information, telemetry, to understand the attack better. And then during that's investigation, we're going to truly understand how the attacker got in. Did they exploit some vulnerability, some new zero day that's out there, or was it someone clicking on a phishing email, and that's how they got in. And so we'll be investigating and determining the best eradication methods, whether that's, removing files, cutting off access, resetting credentials, whatever we need to do to really stop that attacker from moving on and being able to exploit the environment any further. And then, once we feel that it's contained, and what we kind of end, like what we're achieving there is, once we see the attack stop, we no longer see any other suspicious activity, we've removed all the file, there's no longer any persistence in the environment, then we know the attacker's out of there. And we'll kind of watch and monitor and, really focus, hunt in the environment, make sure that we really have them out of there. And then, the analyst will kind of go, all right, reevaluate their hypothesis. Is there anything else that they could do to protect their customers? Is there any other part of the environment that I should be focusing on? And then they're going to build that story, that true timeline of the events from beginning to end, so the customer can see, what happened, how they got in, and then what we were able to do to stop that. And so, it's analysts from and from the beginning to the end, with technology, with context, with analysis supporting that to be able to protect our customers.
And that comes with, providing solid recommendations. After you look at that whole thing, technology is not going to give you all those recommendations, right? You might see things throughout the incident that happened, and that's where you want to suggest those things to the customer. And so part of that, that whole overview of the incident from start to finish, what are things that we could have the customer improve on so it hopefully doesn't happen again in the future?
And to your point about the technology, I feel like a lot of knowledge about your work is mistakenly confused with beautiful dashboards and beautiful stats and all-encompassing AI-driven technology, and it just kind of works. So what I don't usually see is, again, the analysts behind all that data and telemetry and knowledge, and you guys, you guys just don't want to brag about it, I know, but you guys make it sound like it's just something that works. But I know it's not. So, for example, is there, it's a 24/7 operation, but you guys got to sleep and stuff. So how does that work?
No, and I think you're talking to me is like the bane of an analyst,
Didn't want to say it.
Yeah, so they're competing with the metrics. They're competing with, how effective that you need to portray yourselves to be. And analysts are competing with technology. And, that's a massive amount of stress to put on those analysts because when they didn't meet the mean time to detect or the mean time to respond, but everything they did still protected you, you could be compared against that. And it's unfortunate because our analysts are so much more than dashboards, than metrics, than the amount of detections that they close day in, day out. They're humans. They have, passion for this. They want to succeed. And so, encouraging those analysts to be able to do that job, to go beyond and to look beyond metrics and metrics performance, to truly understand the environments, to make the right decision, to follow the process and procedures is really what I think most teams should focus on, and how they do that. Because as you mentioned, this is a high stress 24/7 job. And so, they're on shift for 10 to 12 hours a day. And then they have to make sure that they've passed on that information to the next shift so they can be as effective, that they're not lost, they're not confused. And so, to make sure that those things happen, we have to encourage analysts to be analysts. We have to encourage analysts to work as a team, to work alongside each other, and then encourage them to be as proactive and as communicative as possible to the rest of the team. And that really, if you can do those things well, and if you can push them beyond the metrics, push them beyond, the mean time to detect, the mean time to respond, I think you get better talent out of it, and you get more success out of a SOC. And then they'll grow with you, and they'll make you better. They'll make the technology better because they have a passion for it. So when they see technology maybe not doing everything they need it to do, guess what? They can work with that team and they can help it make it better. And so, I think, Josh, he's the one that runs our SOC and our Security Operations Center and deals with analysts day in, day out. But, I think we try to make sure that they feel that, we understand the stress of this world, but we're here to support you. We're here to make sure that you are as effective as you can be.
And they don't like to stay stagnant either, and we focus on training and making sure that we're capable of providing that training. So along with all the work that they're doing, analyzing detections, providing feedback to make the technology better, they're also having to constantly evolve, right? And so that's a whole nother almost job in itself, is the training piece, the learning the new tactics and techniques, you know, and providing feedback even to that to help develop more training as they see new things come out. It's interesting to see some of our attacks that we get that the technology doesn't pick up anything with, right? And so being able to relay what they're seeing, provide that back to the technology and also even to training is so important. And that's a whole nother side of the job that a lot of people don't see. You're constantly learning. You're constantly having to evolve to different things.
Do we have an example, potentially recent, that we can share on that? Something that you guys gone through recently that, you know, technology did its best, but it was the analyst at the end that...
Yeah, I mean, we've gotten attacks recently. A lot of attackers are starting to use tools that are already part of the environment or legitimate applications. Okay, for instance, we've had an attacker call into a customer before and say they're IT support. And as a normal user, you're going to just say, okay, what do I need to do for you? And they'll have you download a legitimate tool so that they can remote connect. Well, the technology is not going to pick up on that. It's a legitimate tool that's used in the environment. So once the attacker gets in, they start doing things within the environment. And that's where you have your indicators to tip you off to, hey, somebody's accessing this file. They're trying to launch this script that's normally not seen. What's going on? Now, that could be legitimate activity. It could actually be an IT person, you know, and so understanding what's happening on the environment and also that communication with the customer to narrow down that, hey, this is somebody doing something, right? And so we've seen people use like Microsoft Teams before to make an external call into a customer, and they download, you know, maybe TeamViewer or LogMeIn, some sort of legitimate RMM tool. Then they start using that to do things, right? Maybe dump credentials, at which point you might get some sort of tip. And so that can happen a lot where the technology just doesn't see it, you know? And so, yeah, it's very important that we're staying constant, we're evolving, we're looking into the data, we're communicating with the customer to make sure that we are getting out in front of that attacker. You can sometimes see an attacker start touching files and doing things that really kind of tip you off to, I see where this is going. Let me make this decision. Let me take this action to stop it.
Yeah, I'd add on to that, like we've been dealing with one, won't mention the company, but a certain VPN vulnerability that, you know, is being actively exploited and then using to launch Akira ransomware. And we've been seeing a lot of that. And I think about that one because I'm like, you know, the benefit of an MDR, of a SOC, is that every attack makes us better. And so if we saw one attack with one customer, we analyzed it, we investigated, we eradicated the threat. But then if we see the same exact activity across others, we're more effective against it. And so, you know, Josh mentioned continuously learning and evolving. That's the benefit of being in a SOC, is that you see all those different types of attacks and how they're evolving and what they changed and what they've done differently. Yeah. But then you also notice the TTPs, the normal everyday things that they're doing to get in, and you can go, hey, I know that's bad. Yeah. Why? I just saw it like, you know, 2 days ago on another person's environment. So this is how we're going to respond. This is how we're going to eradicate it. And then, you know, we're able to essentially get faster and better because of that knowledge base, that knowledge of an environment that we're evolving to every day.
You know what I find really fascinating? Always talking to professionals on our podcast, guys like you do this day in, day out, and this is your job, and you just think it's normal, and I don't want to say frankly boring, but it's just like, hey, run of the mill. This is what we go through. So every time I'm trying to pull a great example, you think it's just a normal story, but I promise you, all these things that you guys run into every day make fantastic stories for people who want to learn. It's just that once you're in it, then you're really good at it, and you got it under control. It just feels like a task that's done. And I respect it, but at the same time, it's such a hard, for me at least, being here in my chair, it's hard to pull those stories out of people. So that's why I asked you to give me some examples. So you're not gonna get away with it. I want one more, please. Something that you can remember that happened recently. I love the fact that you said that a lot of that knowledge goes back into training and improving. So it's like a living organism, right? So all of these things happen in the end and inform the next a reaction to whatever the next attack is. So my purpose here when we started the conversation was not necessarily to humanize you, because you already are a human, but to put a face and some understanding of what you guys are doing as an everyday kind of a situation. So I can't hype you up, so you have to hype up yourselves. So yeah, give me a couple of stories that you think or have been, you know, something that are something you guys remember, positive or not, that changed your...
You know, one thing that we're seeing a lot more now is ransomware attacks aren't really the same as they used to be. A lot of times they would get in and encrypt everything, right, and ask for the ransom. Now we're seeing where they're just exfiltrating the data and pulling it off. And so, you know, we've seen recently an attacker reach out that was acting as an IT person and ask this person to drop this basically file transfer tool within their environment, you know, and you don't really see that on the technology necessarily. And they're just sitting there pulling data off and grabbing that data, right? And so at that point, they may not even launch encryption. And so you don't realize what's happening. And so they have all this data now to themselves. And now they can reach out to the customer. We've seen one where the attacker emails the customer. They give them 3 files, example files, and they say, hey, we have your data. If you don't want us to release it to the public, you're going to need to pay us. And here's a proof that we have your data. And they may have 3 files, and they attach it to the email, and the customer will view it and realize those are actually 3 of our files. Do they really have our information or not? Did they just get in and take some screenshots and acting like they did? And so now it becomes a whole thing of having to deal with this attacker of, well, what are they going to do with my information? What information do they have or do they not have? Do I pay the ransom? How do I handle that situation, right? And so that's something we've seen a lot more recently. And so really trying to get out in front of that is interesting. You know, you want to try to make these indicators that recognize some of these tools that are being used. And are they doing anything else? Sometimes the attacker doesn't really do much. A lot of times they do reconnaissance. Sometimes they don't. And so it really goes undetected. Right. And so, you know, you want to help the customer as much as you can. A lot of times you may not even have logs to understand what files they touched, right? Because you want to give the customer these files that they touched. They may have things like social security numbers. And at that point, you know, you need to be able to handle that in a certain way with your employees itself. And so, yeah, that's kind of something we've seen recently.
Yeah, I think showing the effectiveness of a SOC without those big, you know, large industry-wide attacks is hard. And, you know, we all know about the Akiras, we all know about the, you know, social engineering, we know about the business email compromises. We know how, you know, it's evolving beyond, you know, encryption into data theft, and, you know, attackers are doing whatever they can to make money. But, you know, our analysts are doing a lot on, you know, before that even turns into something. They are the ones going and looking at a phishing email and going, this is a phishing email, deleting an email and moving on. You know, and, you know, what would have happened if it went undetected, unmitigated? Well, probably ransomware. We all know that. But, you know, that's what they're doing day out, protecting our customers. And that goes unnoticed. That goes you can't show how the value would have translated into something that probably stopped an attack happening. And so, and the same thing goes with, you know, what Josh is saying. We're seeing a lot of living off the land of attacks, where they're using RMM tools. They're using, you know, certain processes that, and Windows processes that are already built into the environment to be able to launch attacks. And so, that every day, like we see that every day, and we take response action. We stop it. We stop that process from running. We block the IP. We, you know, reset the credential. It no longer went any further. And so what, you know, did they stop a big attack? Probably. Did they do everything they were supposed to do? Yes. You know, and that's what we want to encourage for our analysts is like, you know, it might seem small, but this is a large company, a large corporation. You may have just found the initial access into the environment and you've completely stopped that attack from going on. And then Josh kind of talked about it earlier, is like, what else could we do to help them? And, you know, let's look at your environment. Can we, you know, add a WAF? Can we, you know, put in some network monitoring in place? Can we, patch some vulnerabilities, and whatever we need to do to help mitigate this threats from happening again in the future? And so, that's that human-led aspect, taking that knowledge, that understanding of those attacks that we see day in, day out, and going, how can I help and, make our customers better? So, honestly, what happens is it reduces the noise for them, but also helps our customers and protects them in the long run.
So there's no champagne popping when you guys do something significant. It's just run of the mill, and it's like a oiled operation that it just keeps going, and the customer is safer than it was yesterday and happier without having to think about it much, right?
Yeah. And I think that's, you captured it perfectly, is there's no champagne popping. These analysts come in, knowing that they're probably not going to get a lot of recognition for the things that they're doing day in, day out. We all want to find that big new 0 day and be able to go, this new ransomware group is targeting the healthcare sector, and let's put that out on social media. Let's put that out there into the universe so we can get our name and our brand better. But most of the work that our analysts are doing day in, day out goes unnoticed by the customer, and let alone the industry. But it does make us better. It does make us stronger. And, and then hopefully we're pivoting that information back into the people that are in the operation, but also into the technologies that we use to make those more effective.
So to your point about being the really unsung heroes of the operation and not being publicly known for the results, and in which we know, like, there's obviously different kind of researchers and cybersecurity experts out in the field who are motivated by reputation, by being known. Others are driven by money, whatever the reason. So what drives you guys in these roles, and what makes you individually excited to keep doing the work?
I mean, finding people that are passionate about it, that, when they do discover these things and they stop these attacks, it's not always about the recognition, but for my side, from my role, I do like to give that recognition to our analysts. We have top performers every quarter that we like to call out. We like to, make sure that the company understands who these people are, and mention their names and things like that. But, some of these guys are very humble, with the way they are, but they just enjoy doing what they do day in and day out, and being able to realize what I did and accomplished is so important to them. It's just a lot of people don't get to see that, right? And so we try to do the best we can, at least internally, to give these guys recognition and call outs. Sometimes we like to, offer them to be a part of maybe this kind of podcast, or being able to write blogs or tippers and things like that can be sent out that has their name on it. There's different ways you can do it in that way, but like I said, a lot of these guys are pretty humble, and they're very passionate about what they do. It's not solely based on just the job, but it runs through them.
Yeah, for me being here in this seat, trying to get really interesting and fascinating professionals from the industry on, who don't normally look into a camera, is even more motivated for me, just because I know a lot of these things kind of go under the radar. From the customer perspective, from a marketing perspective, the operation works flawlessly. That's what it's designed to do. You're buying into this capability, and your business is safe. So that's what you want to see. And then, of course, that's fine. Maybe maybe we don't need to have a celebration at the end of every successful thing. But the problem with this having a repeated effect is that we never learn anything about the people who actually do the work, who they are, what drives them, how they get these things accomplished. And honestly, frankly, they don't ever tell the good stories that people would appreciate to hear. So that's what that's what we're doing here. So obviously, thank you for making it out of the dungeon. But but yeah, it was always fascinating to me that these people don't really seek that recognition directly, but they get the enjoyment of what they do through the effects of their work, to the extent of saving large operations out there. So curiosity is obviously one of the things that defines a good analyst.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, curiosity. I think that's that analytical mindset that they have, the want and the drive to ask questions, and then to have enough knowledge and capabilities to go and get the answers for those questions. And so, we talk like. You just kind of brought up earlier about, operations like a living organism. And so, we have those level 1 analysts, those entry level analysts who, coming in, they have 1,000 questions. They learned about something in college and high school, from a blog, and they want to know everything they can. And so their questions are kind of all over the place. But, and then it goes into, as they evolve, their questions become more pointed, more directed. Their hypotheses become better, and they're able to not only understand the questions they're asked, but able to go and find the answers. And then, that's where that level 2 analyst, that next level is that their questions are better, they're more effective, they know how to use the technology. And then you go into that level 3, it's like, I know all the questions, I know how to use the technology, I have the expert, but now I'm here for the crazy scenarios, the things, the out of the box thinking, to push them go, all right, I know this is the normal, but I'm not seeing the normal here. So what are the other questions I can ask? Where are the other hypotheses that I can build to find how the attack might evolve, or how the attacker got in? And then, in operations, it's also intelligence. How do we bring in intelligence teams and intelligence data to help reinforce that analysis and those questions? And so we have dedicated intel teams that are built into that operation to make them, to provide that data, that analysis, that intel to help further their understanding of the threats. And then, the team leads to help push and motivate our analysts to kind of continue to go further, to follow the process and procedures, to make sure the outcome is the same, but also to unblock them when they become blocked by their analysis. And, that's the right team lead can really help drive incident effectively and make the outcome what is needed in a quick and effective way. And so, all of those teams members coming together and into an operation is what makes us so effective, and then supported by the process and procedures that leadership sets in place, by the technology that is brought into the operation, by that feedback loop back into the organization, but also the wider cybersecurity company makes operations effective. And so all of that, like you mentioned earlier, is a living, breathing organism that is what helps drive and protect our customers' data.
And there's a competitive nature to it too.
Okay.
I know myself, when I first got into cyber as an L1 analyst going through the things, for me it was competitive. You have defense and you have offense. And if you asked probably any one of our analysts in the SOC, probably every single one of them's a gamer, playing video games. And it's kind of like that. You almost treat it as a video game sometimes. You're trying to defend, keep these attackers out. Then you have your other guys that are doing the offensive to try to get ahead of the attackers and try to figure out what they can get into. And so you have this competitive nature in the SOC as well. When you treat it that way, it kind of makes it more fun, if you will.
Yeah, 100%. I totally get it. As a part-time gamer, no, absolutely. And I feel like competitiveness is in a game theory situation it keeps on giving, actually. Is there competition between you guys as well? That's what I'm hearing, or just between?
A little bit, I think so.
I mean, nobody's going to see the podcast, so you're safe to say they're not going to know that you are. But yeah, no, I'm curious.
I mean, we want to be the best, right? We want to be the best company out there, obviously, and a lot of other companies are the same way, right? So we're always pushing and driving and trying to figure out how to improve, how to get better. And so, for me, it's always about constant improvement on my process procedures. How can we get faster, more accurate data? And, ultimately, like I said, the competitive nature of trying to get this attacker out or prevent them altogether. So, yeah.
I mean, analysts are competitive in nature. You have your ones that are perfectly fine with, sitting there, knocking out the queue, moving on to the next step. But you have others who, all right, I've done that part. What is the next level? What does that look like for me? How do I improve myself? And so, that training part of it, but also throwing them against harder and harder attacks that we see, and then challenging them to, push themselves to all right, what would you do? What would you change out of this process to make it better? And so, we start to push on these people to to grow them as not only team members, but also to help them become leaders. And so, you'll notice not everyone is like that. Some like, to sit back behind the scenes, but I think, we don't always want that people. We want the competitive nature out of them. We want the people that ask questions, that are looking to grow themselves. And I think that makes a better operation overall. Personally, been in operations for over 20 years now, both with the military and the cybersecurity world. And, the people that end up doing the best out of it are the ones that don't sit behind the scenes, the ones that get involved, the ones that are sharing their expertise and trying to grow the operation and make it better. And then, that's where that competitive side is like, all right, I challenge the norm to see if we can make it a little bit better. And sometimes you got to accept that is the way it is and it works effectively. But sometimes you can go, all right, let's make it a little bit better, because I think you'll make us a lot more, a lot quicker, being better able to detect that threat in the future.
To your point about the future, I feel like a lot of that knowledge that you put in to improve the process feels like a natural progression. But what do you think is the future for the analyst on the front line?
That's a great question. I think as we're evolving more with AI and things like that, it's kind of slowly shifting. I don't think that analysts are going to be replaced necessarily anytime soon. But it's kind of getting to that place where technology is coming into play and keeping that analyst active and ahead of, and the technology itself, and understanding the flaws in it, because there has to be people behind it driving that. But yes, I mean, it's a really good question to see, how we evolve into that.
Yeah, I think it's number one is, reducing the gaps of our analysts, thinning out the differences between an L1 and L2 and L3. I think AI, LLMs are going to help with that, and they are already helping with that. You're also looking at a way that contextualizing a large amount of data. And you mentioned right at the beginning, every environment's different. So how do we use AI? How do we use technology to understand these environments better and more completely? Because then that will help us understand the baseline better. What is normal admin activity? What is normal activity for that one specific user? And so using data in a way that we've always wanted to do it, but it's very hard to do with, humans, is going to be like the next evolution. Large data sets being contextualized, given to an analyst, and then letting analysts go, yes, this makes sense. I don't need to pivot. I don't need to investigate anything else. Let's take action. Let's move forward. But I still think, you're going to see, customers don't want the robot making decisions in their environment. Customers want the humans. They want the people on the front lines that have the expertise and have seen those attacks, being the ones responsible for that. Whether that's because they need someone to look at and talk to or yell at, or they just feel better, more comfortable knowing that someone is behind the scenes watching and monitoring that. So
yeah, your levels will kind of adjust with daily responsibilities. What used to be an L1 analyst and what they do on a day-to-day is probably going to shift a bit as technology comes in, LLMs become better, getting in front of some of that busy work, if you will, that'll allow them to now make these decisions, capturing that busy work's done now. Now we want to make the decisions here and where to go from there. So I think it'll evolve as what a typical L1 used to do is going to change a little bit.
So it's still a progression. Honestly, counterintuitively to me, it sounds like an analyst with more technology, be it LLMs and AI or knowledge, is a much more powerful resolve. So it's kind of counterintuitively probably more powerful position to be in than just ideally being replaced, or somebody imagined it was going to be a complete replacement through AI. So it's an interesting thing to monitor. And with that, I guarantee that I might get you back on at a future episode and we could talk about this to see how it evolves. But I want to thank you for all the work that you do, seen and unseen, for being on the front line. And I want to remind everybody, as I'm thanking you, that this is the only place where we get people from the front line in front of everybody to understand those things that are not seen in cybersecurity. So, thank you, gentlemen, for joining another episode of Cybercrime from the Frontline. I will see you on the next one.
So that's the analytic of the front line, and this is like the people behind the scene of Bitdefender security suit. And this is basically the bottom up of the barrel of Bitdefender, and they also been protecting home users, small office, depending on the size of the organization. I mean, it could be the point that I think Bitdefender has been 30 years, and they are doing the duty to protect us over a decade. So, backend office is to make sure that Bitdefender is monitored 24 by 7 by the two of them. But like I said, like they mentioned, they are not robotic. They cannot even be criticized to be there 24/7, but they will definitely have a follow-up team and more of other people that have the base knowledge of what Bitdefender is and how you contact the service center and how you contact the call center. Depending on how you re-emphasize in cybersecurity, I think a lot of the time Bitdefender has been in the shoes where we struggle, where we emphasize on how we actually can improve day-to-day basis. So this is one of the characteristic of Bitdefender. And let's put it this way, since this is gonna be sometimes, I just wanna make a video. This is all the latest things that Bitdefender has been doing. Just 2 more video to promote and I'll be done.
Security teams are stretched thin. With too many tools and too many alerts, it feels like there's never enough time. Bitdefender GravityZone changes that with a unified platform built for real-world IT and security teams. Trusted by over 200 tech vendors and validated by top analysts, GravityZone is designed to help you protect your entire attack surface across endpoints, cloud, identity, and beyond. Effortless security, unmatched protection.
So, what do you think of GravityZone? I've just rolled it out for us. Pretty cool, right?
Oh, just great. Another change when everything was finally constant.
It's unbelievable. It has all the functionality that we need and also easy to manage. Did we just get this delivered from the future?
The future, huh? I've seen the future come and go for about 10 times last year. Usually means more consoles, more headaches, and more work for us. So what makes this one different?
That's what I mean! GravityZone preempts threats and prevents them from progressing, not just deals with them after they've happened.
And it doesn't stop here. Beyond prevention, we have detection and response built in. No juggling tools, no unnecessary complexity, and it feels like we're running on autopilot.
But what if we didn't have GravityZone?
Let's see.
Fine, leave it with me. Old school fixes never fail. Give me GravityZone! Give me GravityZone!
Didn't you say you had it under control?
Okay. All right, I admit it. GravityZone makes this way too easy.
Told you! This is the simplest way to defend and secure our business against all types of threats. The sky's the limit from here!
In this indication that everything in the futuristic, they are prepared to risk everything, and they are also doing like backend testing, investigating like what the Bitdefender can go through. And there is a Bitdefender MDR portal walkthrough demo. This will be very interesting to see.
Hello, and welcome to this Bitdefender demo. We're going to walk through our MDR portal for managed service providers, MSPs. The Bitdefender MDR portal is designed for multi-tenancy, allowing MSPs to view the status of all their end customers in a single centralized location. When you first log in, you'll see the dashboards. The Organization Summary, or Org Summary, highlights the most important information about what's happening with your end customers. Here, we can see the number of companies under management, the total number of monitored endpoints across all customers, and the license status, which shows how many seats are in use and how many are still available. On the right side, we can see recent notifications. In this case, there are new investigations and new recommendations. If there were other types of notifications, we'd see them here as well. Any recent incidents would appear just below. Now, remember, in MDR, an incident is defined differently than it is in GravityZone. In MDR, an incident refers to a high or critical level event where either malware is active in the environment or an attacker is actively operating within it. In either case, the Security Operations Center, or SOC, will detect and respond to the activity, and the customer success team will reach out to you with more information. If we scroll down, we can see the top customers with recommendations. In this case, the first two customers have the most recommendations, so we'd want to take a look at those and see what changes could be made in their environments. Next, we have the top customers with open tickets. These are the customers who currently have the most support tickets open. Lastly, we can see the top customers with investigations. These are the customers who've had the most investigations during the time period specified in the dashboard. By looking at the customers with the most recommendations, open tickets, or investigations, you can get a clear sense of which customers have the most activity in their environments, and where there may be opportunities to fine-tune their security controls. Let's now proceed to the service dashboard, which shows what the Security Operations Center within MDR is currently doing for your end customers. First, we can again see the total number of monitored endpoints, and we can see that there are no active incidents. If there were any incidents that the SOC was responding to, they would be listed here, whether that's 1, 2, or more. There are currently no open verification requests. We'll cover what a verification request is later, and in this case, there are several open recommendations. We can also see which licenses are enabled. In this case, we have MDR foundations for MSP, as well as several of the XDR licenses. On this dashboard, you can also see what's new with the service, along with the release notes. Over here, the activity summary provides a quick business-level view of what MDR has been doing for your end customers recently. We can see whether there are any active incidents, confirm that monitoring is ongoing, and view the number of alerts triaged over time. When an alert comes in from GravityZone, it first goes through a triage process to determine whether it's a false positive or not. If it's triaged out, that's counted here. Next, if an alert requires further investigation by analysts in the Security Operations Center, it becomes an investigation, and those are shown here. If there are any response actions or recommendations, you'll see those numbers over here. And in this case, we can see that there were some. Scrolling down, we can see recent activity for investigations and recommendations. We can also see the top users who are impacted. For these users, you can find more detailed information in GravityZone within the Threat Explorer. Additionally, we can see the top endpoints by alerts. This gives you a clear view of which endpoints have the most activity from a security perspective, which may indicate potential issues or areas where your end customers might need additional attention. If we want to view this for a specific company, we can use the Company Selector dropdown to choose that company and see the results specific to them. Next is the Configuration Dashboard, and this is a good one to look at on a per-company basis. If we select a specific company, we can see that it has a number of seats currently in use. These numbers show the endpoints registered in GravityZone for the selected company. We see the number of MDR endpoints. These are the endpoints that have EDR installed and are sending telemetry to the Security Operations Center for monitoring. Then, we have the number of active endpoints in GravityZone. These are the endpoints that are currently online and active, followed by the number of MDR monitored endpoints. We can also see the number of endpoints by operating system over time. In this case, the environment includes only Windows endpoints, and we can see the total number of monitored endpoints by operating system as of right now. Below, we can see the deployment status, which is especially useful when a customer is first being onboarded. Here, we can view the steps in the onboarding process on the MDR side, starting with the customer being enrolled, then integrated with MDR, followed by MDR portal access, and finally, monitoring being started. Next, over here, we can see the current deployment status. The licensing is set up for this customer, EDR is enabled, and telemetry is being sent over to MDR. In this case, 100% of their endpoints are being monitored. This view helps identify any deployment issues related to endpoint monitoring. For example, in this environment, all 21 endpoints are currently being monitored. However, if any endpoints were not being monitored, for example, due to telemetry issues, EDR problems, or licensing errors, those would appear here. You can click on any of these entries to open a CSV file, which lists the specific endpoints affected, details about each issue, and information to help you identify and resolve the problem. Let's move over to the Activity page, which shows the details of what the Security Operations Center has been working on. First, we can see all of the triaged alerts that have come in. For each alert, we can view the case number used by the SOC, the detection time, category, severity, and the associated company. These alerts can be sorted and filtered as needed. If we click on any alert, we can view the analysis results and access detailed information about that case. Next, we have the investigations. These are the alerts that were not immediately marked as false positives and therefore required manual investigation by an analyst in the Security Operations Center. The layout here is very similar to the triaged alerts. We can see the case number, severity, detection details, and the entity involved, which could be an endpoint name, IP address, or username, as well as any associated recommendations. We can open the details of any investigation to review the findings. For investigations that include recommendations, we can also click over to the Recommendations section to see what actions were suggested. In this example, the analyst has recommended several actions to be taken based on their findings. These are typically steps you would either take within your customer's environment or recommend that your customer take. Generally, these actions are meant to improve the overall security posture and help prevent similar alerts from occurring in the future. Over here, we also have the Response Actions section. These are the actions taken by analysts in the Security Operations Center in response to their investigations, with the goal of mitigating suspicious or malicious behavior. For example, in one case, a file was blocked. In another, an IP address was blocked. And in another, a file was deleted. These actions are typically related to malware or other potentially harmful activity within the environment. If we click on one of these actions, we can view more detailed information. In this example, the analyst blocked an IP address after observing scanning activity from that host. Having determined the behavior was malicious, the IP was blocked to prevent further activity. The next page is Customer Tasks. These are items forwarded by the Security Operations Center to you so that you can assist your customers in addressing specific issues or actions. The first section is the verification requests. A verification request means that the analysts observed something in the environment they weren't sure was expected or not, but that could be malicious if it wasn't supposed to happen. In these cases, the analyst sends a verification request asking whether the observed activity is expected behavior or unexpected behavior. If we open one of these requests, we can see that, in this example, the analyst observed a network scanning tool. Scanning tools are sometimes used legitimately by IT administrators, but can also be used maliciously by attackers. In this view, we have two buttons, Normal Behavior and Unexpected Behavior. The analyst is asking you to choose one, indicating whether the activity is normal for your customer's environment. If it's marked as unexpected behavior, the SOC will treat it as a potential attack and respond accordingly. If it's marked as normal behavior, that information will be added to the knowledge base for the customer, helping the SOC understand that this activity is expected within that environment. Next, we have the Recommendations section, something we looked at briefly earlier. Clicking on any of these items shows the specific recommendation for that customer's environment. For example, one recommendation might be to review certain software to ensure it's authorized within the environment. In another case, the recommendation could be to check a particular host to confirm that it's one you expect to see in the environment. We'll look next at the Reports page, where you'll find the monthly reports. Each month, typically during the first week, a report is generated for each monitored customer, summarizing what the MDR Security Operations Center has done for that customer during the month, along with the current status of their environment. In this view, we can see all the reports for each company, as well as an aggregated report for you, the MSP, which provides an overall status summary of all your customers. You can click on any report to open the corresponding PDF and review the details. Let's now look under the Service Management section. The first item is Emergency Contacts. The Emergency Contacts list includes the people and contact information that the customer success team will reach out to when there's a high or critical level notification that needs to be communicated to you, such as an incident. When such an event occurs, the customer success team will go through the list of emergency contacts, reaching out to each person in order until they find the appropriate contact to notify about the incident. Emergency contacts can include individual people, a shared email address or phone number for an IT department or operations center, or even an email address for a ticketing system if you'd like notifications to go there. It's very important to have at least one emergency contact with a phone number that the customer success team can call in the event of an emergency. This allows them to discuss what the SOC has found in the environment and advise on next steps. These contact cards can be rearranged at any time if you'd like to change their order. Also keep in mind that the emergency contacts defined at the MSP level are inherited by your end customers. However, they can only be seen by the MSP and the MDR staff, not the end customer. However, if you want a specific end customer to have different emergency contacts, you can set those directly for that customer by first selecting their company from the company selector in the upper right-hand corner. Next are the pre-approved actions. A pre-approved action is a permission you grant to the Security Operations Center, allowing them to perform specific response actions without waiting for additional approval. Here, we can see a list of available response actions, such as stopping a process, isolating a host, or resetting or disabling a user credential. When the SOC needs to mitigate an attack in the environment, they'll first check whether the corresponding pre-approved action is enabled. If it is, they'll take that action immediately. If it's not enabled, the customer success team will reach out to you to request permission before the SOC proceeds. Bitdefender recommends enabling all pre-approved actions since in an emergency, any delay in authorization could allow the situation to escalate. Another helpful feature of the pre-approved actions page is the ability to add notes. For example, if you want to enable the stop process action, but only under certain conditions or on specific endpoints, you can include those instructions in the notes field. Notes can be added to any of the actions, giving the SOC additional context and guidance on how you'd like them to operate within your environment. Now, we'll shift over to the Users page. Here, you'll see a list of all users across your customers. You can view each user's name, along with the company they belong to, as shown in the company column. From this page, you can also set user roles. You can assign a user as an admin who has full control within the portal, a regular user with standard access, or a read-only user who can view information but cannot make changes. The ability to create or delete users is managed in GravityZone. Once the users are created there and have logged into the MDR portal, you can assign their roles here. Next is the Companies page. This page provides a list of all the customers you manage who are enrolled in MDR. It shows when each customer was added and displays their current onboarding phase, whether they're fully onboarded or still in progress. Last but not least, let's look at the notification profiles. The notification system allows you to receive email alerts when something new occurs in an environment. To create a new notification profile, click Add, then enter a profile name. If you'd like to include detailed information in the emails you receive, check the Include Details box. Some companies choose not to include details because they prefer to review information directly in the MDR portal rather than through email. Under Notification Types, you can choose which alerts you'd like to receive, such as monthly reports, incident reports, tipper reports from CIFC, the Cyber Intelligence Fusion Center, recommendations, investigations, threat hunts, or response actions. You can also set the frequency for these notifications. Immediate, to receive an email as soon as something happens. Daily Digest, to get a summary of all notifications at the end of the day. Weekly Digest, to receive a summary once a week. You can mix and match these settings across multiple profiles to create a notification setup that works best for you. Next, choose which company you want the notifications for, either all companies or a specific one. Finally, you can add email addresses for anyone who should receive these notifications. Just type the address and click the plus icon to add it. You can include as many recipients as you'd like. When you're done, click Save to activate the profile. If you'd like to make changes later, you can inactivate, clone, or delete an existing notification profile. This has been an overview of the MDR portal for MSPs, showing how you can monitor, manage, and support all your customers from one centralized platform.
So this is the award system, and you can pretty much guess why Bitdefender is now entering the zone. And this is the FAQ system. Who is GravityZone security best suited for? Idea for business looking for easy and manage. Affordable endpoint security business and designed to protect small to medium-sized organization. And there is also another one is called Can I try Bitdefender? Can I try Bitdefender security? You can. It's a free trial of GravityZone security. And if you click on it, you can definitely do some stuff on it. Pretty much all the standard FAQ that you can think of. And I'm gonna try to click on what is highlighted here. Amazing that you don't need to like pay before you think, but you can use it to enjoy yourself. But this is the requirement. You need to have a company name and how many employees, and then you can try it out. So after you done with your free trial, you can enjoy with the remaining of the cybersecurity that is offering to GravityZone. And I can tell you on my own experience, Bitdefender has been in the trust zone, and I've been using a Bitdefender for nearly 6 years. 3 by 3, so basically 3 times 3, and yeah, 6 years on Bitdefender, and I can tell you honestly, Bitdefender has been in the trustee zone, and I've been using Bitdefender for quite a few, and I can honestly give you the idea. It really detects a lot of threat. It saved my life for a while, and then top of that, they are very fast responsive. And their service center, you can just call them up and email them or basically chat with them. They have a very dedicated team for Bitdefender GravityZone. As long as you're a subscriber, you don't have any problem, just decide to give them a call, have a discussion, how they can assist you or anything. You can just list down on what you need, then make sure that is related to what GravityZone or any of the cyber threat that bypass, just to make sure things get less intrusive or less communicating through human. Bitdefender have an AI dedicated to that they implement it for the Bitdefender suite. So I think that's about it for me. I'm getting a bit sleepy, but I think that's all. If anything I can think of through Bitdefender, I can definitely share up some detail. But for now, I'm just gonna say thank you for watching and I'm off to bed. Good night.